I want to let the rest of this time, let you speak about anything else you'd like to speak on, and also tell us about how we can find you and what you're up to.
It's up to me now.
Well, yeah.
You're both delightful. I like you. I like you, David. I know I like Sana.
I like him too.
Huh.
Well, it can't. I'll just reiterate that people that are on the path of wanting to step into the 5D reality, breaking free of the matrix, we're looking for different ways of getting there, whether that is a meditation practice, whether that is yoga practice, whether that is tarot, regression theory sessions, all that kind of stuff. We're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we have. And people will be watching this and they truly love their astrological chart using the 12 sign system. And I hope that by what we've shared so far, that if you were to embrace the true position of the planetary bodies, you could do a quantum leap in stepping into that 5D reality. And it might be uncomfortable because your cup unconsciously could be very close to full. But by taking the step to be open to the possibility of something different, you have no idea what kind of impact that could have on your life. You could become just free of the shackles that unconsciously kept you in a place that you weren't comfortable. So we do private readings that are 2 hours long, that are recorded, and we mainly focus at the moment at the planetary bodies that we all know, especially that golden triangle of the sun, the moon, and the rising sign, and any aspects that they make, because it's not just where they are, it's also the angles that they make with other things in your chart. For example, is Saturn opposite your sun, or is it a trine, or anything along those lines? We also look at your north and south node, which is very strong in Vedic astrology. Maybe David will talk about that. We also look at the Lilith asteroid. And again, this is something different from what a lot of other astrologers use. They look at Lilith, and there is a Lilith asteroid, so a physical thing in the sky, and then there is this fictional Lilith black moon energy, and it's all like it's not an actual thing in the sky. So we use the asteroid versus what some other astrologers use. So that is our typical reading with Venus and Saturn and that. But there is so much more that David briefly touched on. There is Juno. Juno, we've spoke about that in one of our recent blogs. Juno is who is your true opposite partner in this lifetime. So not just the relationship, the love aspect that is found in Venus, but Juno takes that to another level. We look at Pallas Athena, the strategist, but also she was the war queen. She was an equal among the deities in the Greco-Roman mythology. We look at Vesta. We look at Ceres. Ceres, the embodiment of Mother Earth. I've got goosebumps talking about them. We talk about Setna, who is very similar to Ceres, but Setna instead is of the ocean life, the oceans. She's the protector of that life, and that would take things to a whole other level. And there is so much more we've talked about in our blog several times about Icarus. Icarus is that risk-taking, the myth of Icarus. He was freed by his father with the wings, and the father said, don't go too close to the sun. But Icarus didn't listen. He went too close, the wax melted, and he plunged to his death in the sea. So that's about risk-taking. So there's, apart from the normal natal planets that most astrologers will talk about, about Pluto. For us, Pluto is a feminine energy. We talk about Neptune. So the normal planets that everyone would have heard of that has a slight affinity with astrology, but we would like to then, after an initial reading, looking at that, if you want to know more, then we talk about other things. So we have, it's not just our knowledge, it's not just the knowledge that David has, but there is so much more that we can use as this recipe book that I spoke about earlier to really get closer to understand the divine design. And the gift you can, if you are a parent, the gift you can give yourself by understanding your children. You know, I understand my children so much more. My daughter, having her son in Aries, she is this fire, and it's just, you know, it just explodes, and it's so foreign to me. I don't have a fire. Yes, Sagittarius is part of my first house as well. My sun is in earth, my moon is in air. I don't do that fire explosion. So for me to understand that she has that, and that's just the way she is, right? So if you were to guide your children better, I think understanding where they're at, their tendencies of how they deal with emotions. Do they deal with emotions by thinking through them and quite rational and not being too hung up on it? Or do they really feel them, that water? Or does it sit in their body and it actually, you know, it physically holds them down? So at the moment we do private readings that can be booked online, and we provide, in my opinion, a beautiful new moon and full moon blog every 2 weeks that we put on YouTube and recently on Spotify as well. There is so much knowledge, not just about the position of the sun or the moon at that time, but David explained a lot about the ego consciousness at this lunar eclipse that we had earlier in the week, because, you know, it was a penumbral eclipse, which means that the moon was in the shadow of the earth. So look, working on our shadow work is such a beautiful time to do that. And so by understanding, by knowing where the planetary bodies are at a particular time, you can then accelerate any kind of quantum leap you would want to do. Is it a time to let go of shadow work? Is it a time to, you know, it's using it to your advantage. And why not use the true position rather than having it fit nicely in a 30 degrees times 12, 360 degrees circle?
Amazing.
Oh, yes.
Amazing. David, last words?
Yeah, so just bridging from that this to me is the organic versus the inorganic. This is the overlay, the matrix overlay is the 12 sign. So, you know, this new lunar eclipse that's just happened in the last few days is an incredible time to wrap up, deal with shadow work. And because that is what a penumbral eclipse is all about, as Sana has just said. However, if following, that's the organic, that is the reality. The reality is that we've just had a penumbral eclipse in Virgo. It doesn't matter what the 12 sign overlay says. Where was it? It probably was in Libra. So if somebody's looking at that going, oh, well, you know, it's a penumbral eclipse in Libra, their experience of that, which is an air sign, is totally different from Virgo, which is get into the detail. You need to understand the detail, a little bit of the shadow. What is it? That's why our last blog, I went to great lengths to actually to go back and deconstruct and say, what is this ego identity and this ego consciousness? It exists in and of itself, and we all recognize it, even if we don't articulate that we recognize it. But we've all had those experiences of, oh, that person's really egotistical, that person's really stuck in their ego. We've all got to go through the process of integrating, not, you know, touching on the Vedic, they talk about the dissolution of the ego. I don't quite accept that as part of the process of evolution. I think that it's integration of the ego, And the ego consciousness is actually related to the third house of Gemini, where we, as I said before, where we first formed our beliefs. And that is where, when you look at psychology, and they say, well, actually, if you sit down and say, I need to do some work on myself, I need to break through my limitations, I need to be more effective, I've got some self-sabotage in my life. What is a psychologist, or as you say, you're coaching, I've no doubt you do this as well, you'll take people back to that early experiences, because where do those beliefs start? So this penumbral eclipse in Virgo is actually very suited. See, Virgo is ruled by Gemini.
Mercury.
Mercury, well, it's the whole Gemini energy. So Mercury is the ruler of the third house. So if you're following 13 sign astrology, now, right now, is the perfect time to organically align with the idea of some childhood regression, some past life regression, some understanding my belief structures. And you're aligning with the tailwind of the organic energy that's already there. It's saying, now's the time. Whereas over here on the 12 sign, because they've got ahead of themselves, they are experiencing this completely differently. What I would also conclude with here, which is very important as we've experienced this, is that right now there are, when we talk about the matrix structure, there are 3 major astrological events that have taken place in the last 6 months that in the 12 sign system, people have utterly and completely missed. These are game changers. The first was the entry of Pluto into Capricorn, yeah? Pluto just entered into Capricorn. Now, when Pluto goes all the way around all of the constellations, and we believe it's a feminine energy, again, here you go, the feminine energy of Pluto takes 250 years. So if you go back around 250 years, where was Pluto? When was the last time Pluto was at this exact point in 13 sign astrology, not 12 sign, where they've utterly missed this. This is just completely explodes the mind and the reality of seeing what's actually going on. I'm not a religious man, I'll make that statement, but there is a verse in the Bible that says there will be signs in the sky. I think it's in Luke. There will be signs in the sky. Isn't that source saying to us, hey, take a look at what's going on up there, because that's the organic, that's what's happening. Now let's just skip back 247, it was 247, 248, but basically 250s. It's not exactly precise. But what happened the last time Pluto was at this point in the 13th sign? 3 things happened that we are today looking to unravel. It was 1776 was the year. Those who live in the United States will recognize 1776 immediately because of the Declaration of Independence. That was one event. That was, this can be argued, but let's just go with this for a moment. This was the birth of the new Roman Empire, the United States of America.
It was.
Right, number 1, that happened. The last time Pluto was at this point. Number 2, Adam Smith released a book called The Wealth of Nations. Interesting, Adam. First name, first seed. Very interesting. Let's just explore this just for a moment as we wrap this up. Adam Smith writes The Wealth of Nations. The Wealth of Nations is the basis of the economic system we live in today. This is the basis of trade. This is the basis of what they call comparative and competitive advantage between nations. This is the basis.
Colonization, yeah.
Yeah, colonization, modern monetary theory, central banking hegemony. It is the basis of the economic system 100%. If you have studied economics, which I have at a master's level, you will know that Adam Smith and the invisible hand of the market is absolutely the basis of the economic system. So number one, 1776, he released a book called The Wealth of Nations, the arc of the economic system right now. It's imploding. 1776, Declaration of Independence, the birth of the United States. And look at what's going on with the United States. Is this the end of the modern Roman Empire? Is this where we all go back to the founding fathers and say, hang on, we need to have a look at this again? There's so much going on around that 1776. Well, here's the third piece. This to us, you miss if you are following the 12th sign. And this is where we'll leave this, because it's just so profound. The third pillar that happened in 1776 when Pluto was at this exact point in the 13 sign chart was the birth of the Bavarian Illuminati Party.
That's
Fact.
right.
Adam Weishaupt and Adam Smith. Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations. Adam Weishaupt formed the Bavarian Illuminati political party. Fact. Which has then become the order. And the idea of that Bavarian Illuminati party in 1776, interesting, there was Adam Weishaupt, Adam Smith. What I believe is the three pillars of the matrix is that the order is the shadow government. We've got the modern monetary theory and colonialism and trade and capital markets, which is Adam Smith's invisible hand, which isn't working, by the way, and the birth of America. You take all three of those things right now and you ask yourself, what on earth is going on in the world right now in all three of those areas? And Pluto's arrival is a clarion call from source in our view.
But we have an opportunity to recreate all of that in this time.
Absolutely.
And Capricorn is ruled by.
And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is the devil in the tarot, Baphomet, sitting on the black box with the two chains coiled around, and humanity thinks that she is captured, but is not.
You can take the chains off on the cards, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I love the tarot as well. I often, when we do our readings and preparation, well, I always look at the tarot. I always look at the numerology. I look at those three and I go, if it's all, sometimes it doesn't align, but a lot of the times it does. Now, Saturn, this is what's been missed. Saturn has entered Aquarius. Saturn is now in Aquarius. And that is absolutely profound, because when you go back to 1964 to 1966, which is where I started, and I'm drawing a loop all the way back. 1964 to 1966, Saturn was in this exact position of where he is in the sky right now in Aquarius. What happened in 1964 and 1966? We had the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That song came into reality.
Until he died in 1963. Yep.
What else happened through that whole period of the mid-60s through to the beginning of the end of 60s? It is incredible historically what happened. The last piece of this is Walter Cronkite and the mainstream media. In 1968, just after this process had begun, Cronkite, who was the template for the modern news, the anchor, the learned anchor, the man sitting there bringing us the news. I don't know this. I know this from historical fact, but he challenged the Vietnam War. And we know that the 60s was a time of tumultuous, absolute revolution. That was the beginning of the age of Aquarius. That was the first run at how the world will upend the matrix.
And the cabal did take it back over, though. It did take it back over, but you're absolutely right. I have something else to add to you guys. The first pillar you mentioned in our revolution in this country, we had another Adam. It was John Adams, who was part of the Revolutionary War, and he's one of our presidents. So you got three Adams. in this case,
Wow.
last name, but you can add that to your,
Yeah.
you can add that to your story. Oh my gosh.
So
I'm
here's the thing.
mind
Yeah.
blown.
If you're in the 12 sign inorganic overlay, you are utterly and completely missing all of this.
Yes.
Yet here we are, we're playing, and you, Liz, and everyone else, and we're reaching out to the tribe right now. And you're saying, if you're an offer, you can. If you want to be part of this restoration, if you want to be part of what happened, we saw the first examples of it in the 60s. Well, those of us who were born at that time are now growing up, and the baton has been handed to us.
Yes.
Saturn is just in that same point. We're at the exact same point. And if you then look at the third piece of this, which is being missed, which is Neptune has just entered Pisces. So we've got Neptune has come 162 years round to this profound. So those of us living today are experiencing events that didn't happen. Pluto 250 years ago. We may have been born then, have actually been reincarnated now. There's another thing to consider. Some of us were born, could have been born last time Neptune was here at 0 degrees Pisces, which is profound, and have come back in now 162 yees later. There are people who could have passed through the 60s who went through that experience, and they've now said, oh, now is the time to come back. And they bring all of that past life experience of having gone through the first round of the revolution to now. And I reckon there's kids coming in now who were alive at that time. There were kids coming in now who were alive in 1776, and they're here. And they're saying, we're part of this. So you miss it. If you're not on the 13 sign, you're missing it. It's gone. People have raced off down. No, get aligned with what's actually happening in the organic system, not the inorganic overlay. Let's go back to the organic. You can't get, if you want the root of everything, it's source consciousness, right? That's what's happening. Ignore it. It's fine.
Oh my goodness,
it.
we could talk for hours.
Wow.
I mean, I need a drink actually. No, but I mean, I want to close this out, but this has been wonderful. This has been wonderful. I'm going to, any final words? I'm going to make sure I have all your information in the description box, and I'm also going to put up the dates of all the 13 signs. We'll make sure we have all that in the description box. So,
sure thing. So you can, our social media presence is starkittensmedia. So you can find us on Facebook. We have an active channel on Telegram. We have our YouTube channel and on Spotify. Yes.
Oh my gosh, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to take us off
Thank
record.
you.
Oh my goodness. Stay with me just a minute. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.